Coming up on today's Next Fan Up podcast, we got one more week to the Super Bowl, but not a week off for the podcast.
Going against Reggie Wayne, of course, was his brother Little, whose music's terrible. I'm not sure if James is a wee man, but I've often thought he's a man full of wee. Just edit James out in various spots. That whole Philadelphia thing.
Wow.
Smartest thing that's been said today.
Well,
we're going to have a lot of fun. Here we go.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry, hold on.
32 SuperFans.
I couldn't understand a word they were saying.
One Pod Vader.
You fired up for that, man? Huh?
Every angle of the NFL covered.
We on go time. We still on go.
This is Next Fan Up.
We're live, bro.
Hello and welcome to the We Still Gotta Wait a Week edition of the Next Fan Up podcast. Hey everybody, Pod Vader here. We're waiting one more week for our blowout the budget Super Bowl coverage. Although we will have some Super Bowl talk in today's episode. Let me bring in the super fans that will help me guide you through today's episode, chock full of lots of stuff. I mean, you want to talk about a smorgasbord of content today? We've got it for you all in this podcast. And I'll throw it across the pond to the man known as Neil, who represents the Washington football team. Hello, Neil.
All right, guys, how you doing? Quite quiet over here this time. I'm a bit annoyed with this whole. What is this 2 weeks break between the Super Bowl? There's not even going to be a media week, is there? Because it's all kind of shut down. So why don't you just get on with the game? God's sake.
Actually, as a matter of fact, I was sent the press release about how I personally can sign up for the virtual meetings. It's all going to be done on Zoom like it's been done all year long. And I could actually sign up and attend some of these press conferences.
And I was wondering, Jay, what is this? I wonder what the Swedish is for smorgasbord.
I don't know. But James in Atlanta perhaps knows. I doubt it. He's our Eagles super fan.
wait, knows what?
Well, what the Swedish word for smorgasbord is.
Yeah, you just said it. So, comedy at its worst, ladies and gentlemen. And what's this I hear?
Dad Joke Thursday. Come on.
What about this? Wait a minute. Hold on. Let's back up. You said big budget blowout for next week. There's a budget? You didn't tell us?
That's right. We're gonna double the budget of this podcast for next week's coverage.
Wow.
I mean, compensation?
You want to know what? We're gonna quadruple the budget for next week.
Oh my gosh. This
I mean, James,
budget is zero.
You surely you've got it in your contract that you get paid extra for these things during the playoffs.
Wait.
No? Oh.
Contract? You have a contract?
Contract?
I mean, you don't have a cut. Oh, sorry, Jay. If I
These
dropped
are
you in
new
it.
words I'm hearing here. Contract and budget. I feel like I've been hornswoggled.
No, I was a
your
former WWE wrestler, and he was a wee man. Doc is not a wee man. He represents the Saints. He's not an official super fan, sort of an unofficial official super fan of the Saints, but he's been with us all season long with his wonderful recipes and food tips, and we'll have more on the Super Bowl a little bit later in the show. Hello, Doc.
Greetings, salutations. Yeah, it's, well, you know what? I think in retrospect, it's good to have a week off and figure out how I can engineer a Patrick Mahomes ketchup, and we're going to be publishing a crap load of good recipes from our celebrity chefs, and going to post some of them on the Next Fan Up listserv, and everybody can partake.
I'm not sure if James is a wee man, but I've often thought he's a man full of wee. Is that a British joke that works over there? No?
That sounds like a dad joke. Keep them coming, Neil.
Oh, God. No, please don't. Stop.
Keep them coming. Nextfanup at gmail.com is the way to reach us via email.
Speaking of your email pod, sorry to interject. One more thing about your email. If you're listening, email Jay, because this week, one of the things we're featuring is a book called Invite, and it's from our Amazon Prime chef who's donated a book to the Next Fan Up Nation, and it's full of high-end recipes and cocktail recipes unmatched. So we're going to pull a couple of recipes from that, and jack up your Super Bowl party. We've got time, and with that, we've got an award-winning man cave designer from Denver. Her name is Stacy, and she's going to show you how to decorate your house and jack it up for Super Bowl. So we got you covered from curb to the kitchen. So
nice.
And
So
we're going to give
you
it away to a Next Fan Up listener. So all you got to do is email pod. We'll throw you in the bank and get after it. We'll send you a book.
Tell us why you need this book.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Neil. Make your joke now.
You carry on, Doc. I'll do my joke later.
All right. At NFU
All right,
Podcast.
okay.
Oh,
Now
my
you've started
gosh.
me. All right. The three vampires walk into a bar. The first one says, I'll have a pint of blood. The second one says, I'll have one too. The third one says, I'll have a pint of plasma. So the bartender says, okay, so that'll be 2 bloods and a Blood Light.
Speaking of that, since I'm not going to get through the rest of this podcast without being interrupted, Budweiser not a sponsor of the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
We will have no Budweiser ads this year.
Oh,
Yeah,
I just did a Budweiser joke for you. Damn it.
I know. Isn't that a shame? It's
like what, the first time in 30 years or something like that? Maybe 40?
It's something like that. It's kind of wacky.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because this is going to be surely the most watched Super Bowl of all time.
I would say so. I mean, we mentioned last week that while we are giving away a book to help you with your Super Bowl party, that it does appear that there probably will be less parties this year. People are less inclined to go out due to the pandemic that's going on. So I would imagine there will be more televisions tuned into the Super Bowl than ever before.
Exactly. There's going to be, 20,000 people there in the stadium? Some of them are healthcare workers, aren't they? And the rest of them will be, Tampa Bay fans?
All of them.
7,500 healthcare workers are being flown down to the Super Bowl. All will have been vaccinated, I assume twice, not just the once. You got to get the 2 jabs, as they like to say over there, Neil.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I knew a guy called Two Jabs once. He was not a friendly man.
Oh, man.
By the way, you can still get Super Bowl tickets on the third-party sites, and right now, as of this morning, the average price was $14,110 American dollars. So,
No, thank you.
no.
Pass.
No, thank you.
Does it come with a face mask?
And of course,
Having
Weird.
had family travel recently, understanding the air restrictions and what they had to go through to get here is quite. I mean, it's $150 out of pocket just to get the COVID test.
Wow.
I mean,
Really?
so never mind buying a ticket to a game. You already got to add the $150 for the COVID test just to fly there. No,
Do you have air restrictions over there at the moment, or is it all kind of, in terms of the airlines, is it all open? Because I think
it's a wild west because the governments have not funded the airlines, and they're trying to get business any way they can.
So while some flights might be extremely low in price, there are others that are much more expensive. It's it's all a head scratcher, and it's all out of whack. But in any case, you know what's not out of whack are stats that you can get on a weekly basis from the good man Matt Verderame, not Verderame, as I've been calling him. It's Matt Verderame. NFL writer at Fansided. I had a chance to catch up with him, and we talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. It is my pleasure now to bring in a guy who has made my job on Thursdays so much easier with his one stat you need to know, his stats article that comes out every week, and I can't wait to read his Super Bowl version. It is Matt Verderame, who I've been mispronouncing as Matt Verderame for the last few weeks. He is a national NFL writer for Fansided. Matt, welcome to Next Fan Up.
Thanks for having me, Jay. How you doing?
Yeah, I got to tell you, that article that you write every week is such a time saver for me. I don't have to go digging for that sort of stuff. I love to find that one or two cool nuggets that like other people just aren't thinking about. And that's what your article is. And it's fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, it started this year over at Fansided. I put it up every Wednesday morning throughout the year. And it's just, I thought I always do quarterback rankings. I do my Stack in the Box column, which goes up Monday. And that's kind of a catch-all, 2,500 words, try to hit on every team during the regular season. And I love writing that column because it really, I dig into the league. I talk to people inside the league and with different teams and try to give inside information in there. But I felt like throughout my writing through the course of the week that like there wasn't something that I did that was analytical. And while I am not an analytics guy by any means, I'll leave that up to the quote unquote nerds who I think take that as a badge of honor now. I wanted to find like, well, what were the matchups I should be looking for every week? And then maybe that fans could be looking for every week. And so it actually really turned out as an education for myself, hopefully as much as it was for the readers.
Well, and I think a lot of the things that you've written about, and I'll just go right back to Championship Sunday, have really paid off. I mean, you had the note about the way that the Buccaneers had to play that game and the way that their defense sort of wants to blitz, which makes it easier for their cornerbacks to sort of make the plays. And I think we saw that on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I think that's the benefit. So, and I'll give a shout out, like profootballreference.com is a great website. And a lot of them, not every stat, but probably 90+% came from looking at their different tables and kind of going through and sorting them. And it really helped me to find trends, especially having started in week one. Like you just keep looking and you see, okay, this team has gotten better and better and better in this area. This team has gotten worse. And you realize maybe some of the mismatches. And you're right, like with this Tampa Bay game against the Packers, it was obvious to me looking at it. It's like, okay, well, look, the Buccaneers, they give up 3.6 yards an attempt on the ground. Like they're the best in the league at it. The Packers probably aren't going to run the ball very well, which means Rodgers is going to have to throw. He's going to have to throw in some longer down and distances. Well, the Buccaneers, they're a blitz-heavy team. They blitz, I think it was fifth most in the league, second most in the NFC behind Arizona. And it led to having the fourth most sacks, tied with Arizona. So it felt like if they could get Rodgers into second and third and long, they were in good shape. And that panned out. Now, look, part of this also was the Packers didn't play very well. They dropped some balls. The coaching was very iffy, if you want to even be kind. But, yeah, I mean, the Buccaneers ended up winning because of what their strengths were throughout the year showed up on Sunday.
I know it's probably going to be difficult. This would be a little bit of a curveball question here, perhaps. But was there any stat that you had found through the season that sort of sticks out amongst the others that sort of took you by surprise and was like, whoa, didn't realize that? I mean, that's sort of the idea behind your article, I'm guessing.
Right.
That happens every week. But was there one that sort of stood out amongst the others?
There were a lot, but I'll stick with the teams that played on Championship Sunday. So, I think, look, anytime you get into the playoffs, in the NFL, it's a best of 60 minutes. It's not a best of 7, right? So I think trends matter a lot less in the NFL when you get to the playoffs because, basketball or in hockey, if a team's generally really good in one area, that's probably going to show up over the course of the series, especially if they're much better than the other team. Right, they're really good on a power play, or if some team's really good in a half-court defense but gets torched in the fast break area. Like I think that stuff that's going to show up over the course of 5, 6, 7 games. Football, it's one game; anything can happen. But I found it interesting. Like offensively this year, the Packers were 80% in the red zone, which is almost impossible. It's one of the best red zone percentages of all time. And yet when they played against Tampa, they were awful in the red zone. It's probably what cost them the game more than anything. They were absolutely abysmal. I believe Rodgers was something like 2 of 9 throwing the ball in the red zone. And then on the flip side, to stay in that same area, Kansas City defensively, this is a team that went 14-1 with its starters. Kansas City, dead last in the red zone defensively, 76.6% against, which would have been my stat to watch if the Packers had gotten through and played Kansas City. But the Chiefs in the red zone against the Bills were really, really good. And it really helped them to win the game. And so I just thought it was funny. Like, if those stats had held true on Championship Sunday, the Packers would have won. Maybe the Bills would have won, although the Chiefs were just so dominant offensively. Maybe it's just a closer game. But it just goes to show, like, I will do the breakdown. I will go through it for the Super Bowl next week. It'll go up next Wednesday. But it's one game. If Kansas City plays well defensively in the red zone again, they're going to win. And if Tampa gets in the red zone 5 times and goes 5 for 5, and by the way, they're 7th offensively in the red zone, they're probably going to win. So it is interesting. I do think they're all markers and indicators, but I don't know necessarily that they're all going to be, okay, well, this is what's going to happen. It's one game. Anything can happen.
I've had this conversation before with a stat nerd at ESPN. It wasn't on the air, so this will probably be the first time I've talked about this on the air. One of the things that I love the most about this particular podcast, being sort of from a fan's perspective, is that we like to do a lot of blending of analytics, but then a lot of feeling, right? There's a lot of feeling involved in football. There's a lot of passion, obviously, from a fan standpoint. But One of the things that I brought up in that Bills-Kansas City matchup, and one of the reasons why I picked the Bills to win that game, was the Chiefs are kind of limping in right now. The Chiefs are all beat up. And I'm going to feel the same way coming the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are really banged up right now in comparison to their opponent. And the Bills had that momentum going for them. Everything was moving the way that the Bills were just chugging along. And then all of a sudden they just sort of, it was almost like the old Bills returned. Old Josh Allen trying to do too much sort of returned in that game against the Chiefs. And it sort of went sideways. But that's the beauty of this game, is sometimes there's just a feeling. You just, one of my co-hosts likes to say the team wants it more. He loves saying that every now and then. He's like, I just feel that team wants it more. And sometimes there really is something to that.
Yeah, and that's why, at the top of this show, I said I'm not a huge analytics guy. I like stats because I think it shows where one team's going to devote more of its resources, maybe something they're going to focus on throughout the week. I'm also a big believer in this, and I think for the Super Bowl in particular, that I think it really matters. Whenever you look at a game, if you feel one team has 3 or 4 ways to win, and you feel like the other team has one way to win, and maybe it's a really strong, like you feel like, okay, like for example, in this game, I personally look at it, and in full disclosure, I grew up a Chiefs fan. I remain a Chiefs fan. I promise I'm unbiased when I write and I report, but when I watch the games, I am not unbiased. I think Kansas City, there's multiple ways to win this game. They're a lot better defensively than people realize. If you watch the AFC Championship game, that was evident. They can cover. They cover one-on-one. They do it a lot. They do it well. I think the Chiefs could win this game 23-20. They could absolutely do that. The Chiefs could also win this game 41-38 by just throwing the ball at will. There are some different ways. I think the Chiefs, you could roll Mahomes out. He could win from inside the pocket, whatever. There's a lot of different avenues. The Chiefs could have a good pass rush in this game. They could win by playing coverage. To me, Tampa Bay, the way Tampa's got to win this game, they've got to get pressure, and they've got to do it the entire game. Now, they can do it. They can do it. They have a really good front seven, a great front four. That is the path to their success. Okay, but they've got to do it for 60 minutes, in my opinion, and be damn near perfect in terms of getting to Mahomes, forcing a turnover, not turning it over themselves, so on and so forth. But whenever I look at a game and I feel like there's like 4 paths or 3 paths for one good team and 1 for the other, I always think to myself, well, that team that has the 3 paths and knows that the other one only has 1, they know that they've got to figure out a way to stop that. And if they can figure out a way around that, they're going to win the game. And I kind of go back to look at these playoffs. The Chiefs knew going against Cleveland, the only way Cleveland was going to beat them was running the football. Cleveland, in the first half against the Chiefs, when they were down 19-3, they had 12 rushing yards from their running backs. They just couldn't run the ball. The Chiefs put 1 million guys at the line of scrimmage and said, go ahead, Baker, beat us. And I think, we've seen that throughout the playoffs and other, like Tampa against New Orleans. Tampa Bay had no fear of Drew Brees winning that game. None. And Tampa basically said, look, Drew, throw it. We don't care. You're not beating us with Kamara. You're not going to run the ball. We're not worried about it. You're going to have to throw the ball to beat us. And you're going to have to throw the ball down the field. We're going to choke off these underneath routes. And he couldn't do it. He threw 3 picks. And I always believe in that. It doesn't always mean it's going to work out. Sometimes that one path to victory just turns out to be something so overwhelming that it paves the way. But I do think that we've seen this time and again in the playoffs. And typically the team that has one path, no matter how obvious it is, usually does not pay off.
Yeah, I like everything that you said. Not to tip off too much of sort of my preview of the Super Bowl, which will be coming next week. Although I don't mind repeating myself, frankly, I do it all the time. But in this particular matchup, the key I see is Travis Kelce, and sort of can the Tampa Bay linebackers, who are some of the fastest linebackers in the league, can they cover Travis Kelce? Because I think that's going to be the key. Everyone tends to look at Tyreek Hill and the speed, and yes, he is a weapon, and yes, he has to be accounted for. But for me, it seems like he's the easiest one to account for. Sort of like bracket him, put 2-3 guys, however you're going to zone him up, and take care of him. Although it did, it looked like there were a couple times the Bills tried to do that and they failed miserably at it. I'm not saying everyone can be successful at it, but you know exactly what you need to do to take Tyreek Hill out of the game. I think Travis Kelce is the guy. It's a lot more difficult to take out of a game, and I think he'll be the key in this particular matchup.
I agree with you. I totally agree. Look, Hill is as dominant as he is, and as blazing fast as he is. You can always do something with your safeties and at least limit the big play. Now, you may not be able to totally stop him on slants and in cuts, all that kind of stuff, but you can keep the top on by keeping 2 safeties back. And look, I can tell you right now, Jay, I agree with you on one thing. They are going to do whatever they have to do to limit Hill, because week 12 they played each other. Tyreek Hill had 200 yards in the first quarter. They're not going down that route again. Like, in that game, they basically told Carlton Davis, all right, Carlton, it's on you. And 200 yards and 2 touchdowns later in a quarter, they decided against that. Now, he still had 69 yards in the last 3 quarters, but it beats the hell out of 200 in 1 quarter. I agree. The hard thing with Kelce, and this is a conundrum that every team finds themselves when they play Kansas City. And frankly, nobody's figured it out this year. Even the Raiders, who were the only team to beat the Chiefs starters, gave up 32 points. And the Chiefs had 2 touchdowns called back in that game. One to Kelce, one to Hill, for the record. Is that if you play man against the Chiefs, it's a death sentence. Nobody can play man against them. They're too fast. Their schemes are too multiple. They have a million guys. They run these crossers. They pick each other. It's just nobody is playing man-to-man. And the Buccaneers, who have a good defense, are not built in the secondary to play man-to-man with Kansas City. I would be floored if they do that. So that leaves you got to play a lot of zone. And this is the problem against Kelce. Is Kelce and Mahomes have like this telekinetic deal between them where Kelce finds a spot, he sits down, and then he turns upfield and gets an extra 5-10 yards. And so I think if you're Tampa, look, you cannot. The other part of this is Mahomes destroys the blitz. So Tampa's got to take that part of their game out of this. They cannot blitz him. Now I think they can get away with that because their front four is really good. And as you mentioned, Eric Fisher's out with the torn Achilles. My understanding is with Mitchell Schwartz, it'd be shocking if he played in this game. Okay. The interior of the line has been a weakness most of the year. It has gotten somewhat better as the year has gone on, but the Chiefs are average up front and they're compromised at the moment. So I think the Bucs can get pressure with 4 and they can drop 7, which is what the Niners did, by the way, in the Super Bowl last year. The difference was the Niners defensively last year, they played this cover 3 scheme. It gave the Chiefs some problems, but the second they didn't get pressure, the Chiefs scored 21 points in 7 minutes. And that's where, if you're Tampa, you've got to get pressure for 60. And I think that, the Chiefs, it's just there's so many weapons. The Tampa Bay is going to have to get some turnovers in this game, in my opinion. Could be wrong. Maybe Tampa can find a way to win without getting turnovers. But that game, the first time they played, it was 17-0. The Chiefs had first and goal. They strip-sacked Mahomes. And then the game at least got somewhat interesting. I mean, it was 27-10 with 10 minutes left, but Tampa made a run. But I agree with you. Long story short, yes. Kelce's the harder guy because you're in zone. He's not as far down the field. He knows how to sit down in holes. It's hard to cover him up.
I already saw you sort of early tip of your hand that you're looking at the under in this particular game, and I will disagree with you. I'm going over on this one. I think Brady showed it last week. Even throwing 3 interceptions, he's not going to stop throwing. So I think this is a shootout. These guys are just going to go back and forth, slugfest style, almost like that Patriots Panthers Super Bowl.
Okay.
From way back in the day. I would expect sort of a similar type game. Maybe takes a little bit for them to get going early on, but once they get going, they're not stopping.
I think it's going to be really interesting. And by the way, anyone out there who's a bettor who's listening should probably go with Jay, because I don't bet and I'm awful with that stuff. So by all means, bet the over. My rationale for the under was essentially that I think Tampa is going to get some pressure. I think it'll take the Chiefs a little bit to adjust. And I think Kansas City's defense is better than people realize. And I think the Bucs offense, it's a weird offense. Sometimes they look fantastic, and at other times they look really disjointed. So that was kind of my rationale. I'm like, well, I can see this game being 28-23, something like that. And for the record, the over-under, I think, was 56 or 56.5. Now, that said, I do think there's absolutely a world where that could happen. It's going to be very interesting with Spagnuolo. Now, Spagnuolo, who is the Chiefs' defensive coordinator, for anyone who doesn't know, he was the defensive coordinator of the year the Giants upended New England's perfect year. Now, that was a game where the Giants rushed for the whole night, and they got home constantly. The Chiefs have the ability to do that at times because Chris Jones is a wrecking crew inside, and Frank Clark is a very good edge rusher, and he's like Lawrence Taylor in the playoffs. He had 2 sacks in the AFC title game. Last year, he had 5 in their 3 playoff games. But I think in this game, they're going to blitz like crazy. I think the Chiefs are willing to play their corners one-on-one with Evans and Godwin and Brown, which might sound like a nightmare, and maybe it will be. The Chiefs play cover 0 more than anyone in the league. They're not afraid of it. They don't care. They did it against Allen all night. And Josh Allen this year against the blitz had been phenomenal. There were 2 games he was awful against the blitz, and both times it was Kansas City. The Chiefs are unique in the way they bring their blitzes. They do a lot of post-snap movement. Now, I think Allen was confused by a lot of things that Brady won't be. He's seen it. He knows what he's looking at. Brady's not going to get rattled. I mean, maybe a handful of plays he doesn't know what he's looking at, but he will mostly know what he's seeing. So the Chiefs won't have that advantage. However, Rashad Breeland's a big physical corner. I guarantee you they'll play him against Mike Evans. And they're basically going to tell Rashad Breeland, I don't care if you hold him, mug him, do whatever. If you take 2 or 3 holding penalties, we don't care. Just beat him up at the line of scrimmage. The Chiefs play a lot of press. L'Jarius Sneed is, by the way, one guy I would really watch in this game. There are 2 really, really good rookies in the defensive backfield in this game. One is Antoine Winfield, safety out of Minnesota for the Bucs, who missed the NFC title game. Hopefully he's back to Super Bowl. He's a great young player. Great young player. Son, of course, of Antoine Winfield, who played for Minnesota and Buffalo for all those years. The other one is L'Jarius Sneed, the slot corner for the Chiefs. He drafted him in the 4th round out of Louisiana Tech. L'Jarius Sneed has been absolutely shut down. He missed half the year in the middle with a broken collarbone, but he has been great all year long. And as weird as this sounds, they will play him one-on-one against Antonio Brown, and they'll feel confident in doing it. They put him against Diggs in the slot one-on-one at times in the AFC title game. He was fine. They put him against Beasley. He was mostly very good in the game. He got knocked out late in the 3rd quarter. He had to go into the protocol. I don't know. I don't think he was found to have a concussion. But those are 2 guys, one on each side to watch. But Sneed's going to be matched up in the slot. Whoever they put in the slot, Sneed will take him, and they will not help him. It'll be one-on-one, and they'll have Matthew roaming as a robber in the middle of the field all game long.
One last thing before I let you go, the crowd, the home stadium effect. Yep. If this was a non-COVID year, I could see that as being a real huge advantage for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I already did mention during our Tuesday podcast that I do see a slight advantage even in this COVID year because they don't have to go through a lot of that travel or they're going to be able to deal with all these things from the confines of their own home. They're going to feel comfortable. And they obviously don't have to travel anywhere to get to their game. That said, the crowd, I'm going to be very interested to see because this could possibly be the most neutral crowd for a Super Bowl ever, which I think will be very odd to hear.
Because I started going to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. My first one was the Rams-Pats, and I went last year to Miami. And I had always heard, it's a very wine and cheese crowd. The tickets are so expensive. I gotta tell you, they're all loud in both games. Like the Pats Rams game I went to, Pats fans were loud. It felt like you were in Foxborough. And I've been in Foxborough. I've been on the sidelines in Foxborough. It was loud in Atlanta for the Pats. And in Miami, it was probably about a 70-30 split, 75-25 for Kansas City. And I was in the press box right above where the Chiefs section was. It was deafening in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was very loud. I agree. Look, first of all, 20,000 fans, it's not going to be that loud regardless. But, or at least, comparative what it normally is. But I agree with you. I think it will be neutral. And I find it interesting. I think there's actually an advantage for both teams in one regard each way. For Tampa, you're right. No travel, right? That's huge. They can stay at home. They're comfortable. They've been in that stadium. If you're a kicker, you know the wind in that stadium. However, on the flip side, Kansas City played there in week 12. So I think there's at least some familiarity with it. But the other thing is they're not going to travel there until Friday before the game. Normally, you're there for an entire week. You're up in a hotel. Both teams, of course, always have been because nobody's ever hosted Super Bowl and partaken in it. But for the Chiefs, it's just like a normal game away. Like they're just going to get on a plane on Friday night, get out there. Okay, you go on a Saturday, so it's one extra day. But they're not being sequestered in a hotel in COVID for 8 days. I think that would have been a major, major benefit for Tampa if the NFL had them come down there and have it like a normal Super Bowl week. But of course, for obvious reasons, it's not. I think that really does help the Chiefs kind of neutralize it. I don't think it's a massive advantage one way or the other. But sure, listen, you're Tampa. Yeah, you're at home. Like you'd rather be in your stadium than anywhere else. So for sure, it doesn't hurt. And I think it makes for a fascinating game. I think it's a very good game. It's very interesting. You have two iconic quarterbacks. You're the greatest of all time on one side. You have this up-and-coming supernova of a star on the other side. They've played each other 4 times. Brady won the first 2. Mahomes won the last 2. Brady's the only one to beat him in a playoff game in that classic at Arrowhead a couple of years ago. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. I can't wait to watch it.
Awesome. Matt, if people are looking for more of your stuff, where can they find you?
Well, they can always find me on Twitter, whether I like it or not. So it's just at Matt Verderame, Verderame. And all my work is up at Fansided. I always have the Stack in the Box column. Every week goes up Monday morning, covers the entire league. And like I said earlier, has some insider nuggets in there as well. And then I have a litany of other stuff that goes up through the week. And if you're obviously a big fan of the podcast world here, you should be. I have a Stack in the Box podcast. It goes up twice a week during the season, once a week during the off season. So if you want to check that out, you can find it anywhere: Google Play, iTunes, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks so much for jumping on the show. Appreciate it, and have a good Super Bowl.
Absolutely. You too. Thank you.
How was your half-hour break, gentlemen? Did you enjoy it? Got to sit back, kick back, relax a little bit. Didn't have to hear any bad jokes from Neil.
No, I got to shave. That was good.
Oh, that's good. Perfect.
What did you shave, Doc?
Just the portion of the face.
Oh, okay. No, disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you were finally corrected on his name.
Yeah, well, he did say that the correct pronunciation is Verderame, but he does go by Verderame. So there you go. He also mentioned in the course of that interview that because he is a Chiefs fan, that he'll be extremely scared if Tom Brady has the ball and 2 minutes left on the clock. However, I would say the same is true if the reverse happens. My question to you, gentlemen, is which quarterback would you rather have in that scenario? You got 2 minutes on the clock. Drive wins the game. Do you want Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes? Doc, we'll start with you.
At this point, I can't do anything wrong as much as he is the GOAT. I got to go with I think Mahomes can score twice in the 2 minutes. He's just got that kind of luck. I don't think he's going to have some short receiver catching the ball off his fingertips close to the ground. And a lot of great things have happened to Brady for him to finish those drives. But I just think Mahomes right now is unstoppable. I do. He's got too many weapons. I think the weapons and the combination of quarterback, tight end, wide receiver right now is the most unstoppable in NFL history. For that reason, I got to go with my homie.
Neil?
I would take. Are we getting the surrounding casts coming with them? So Mahomes comes with his Kansas City guys and Brady comes with his Tampa guys, or or what?
Well, that's the way Doc just put it. Let's say you have both the same casts. So
I would. Yeah, on you go.
Yeah, so you have both the same cast. All you're doing is changing out the quarterback.
Okay, I would take the Kansas City supporting cast together with Tom Brady.
Well done, sir. James?
Yeah, I don't care what the cast is. I'm taking Mahomes for the simple fact that as great a passer as both of them are, and Brady's career notwithstanding, at this point right now, Mahomes can do one thing Brady can't, and that is move out of the pocket. Brady's effectively a statue right now. So if the pass rush, if the pocket breaks down, Brady's done. Mahomes can escape, and he can still create something downfield, or he can take off downfield with his legs. So given those two additional options in each quarterback's arsenal, I'd take Mahomes over Brady.
Neil, I'm giving you the Washington cast.
Why? Why would you do that to me?
Because now I want to know if you want Brady or Mahomes with 2 minutes left on the clock.
Oh, man.
With the Washington cast, oh my God. I would probably take Mahomes in that scenario because with the Washington cast, he will be running for his life at some point.
Okay. Very interesting. I'm obviously going to stick with Brady. Brady's the GOAT. I like Mahomes. This is nothing against Mahomes. I think Mahomes is there, and I agree with Doc that right now they are probably one of the most unstoppable teams in NFL history at the present point, the Kansas City Chiefs. But Tom Brady has done it all, seen it all. You're not going to surprise Tom Brady with everything. Yes, at this point of his career and his age, he's a little lesser in regards to the physical ability to do the same things that Patrick Mahomes can do. But I'm going to take Tom Brady's brain over Patrick Mahomes' brain at this particular point in time.
I'll take his affinity with luck and the officials too. I think that might put it over the top too. Yeah?
Oh, man.
All right, since we're on the topic of Super Bowls, before we switch off to non-Super Bowl related items, Doc, why don't you share a few of those Super Bowl party tidbits that you've got in store for us?
Well, what we're going to post, I'll give you a broad overview of what we're doing here with some of these social media peeps. We're going to publish a bunch of recipes. So obviously I get into topics around Super Bowl for God's sakes, you don't have to do much cooking on Super Bowl Sunday. I've done some epic ones, and do your marinations. We'll give you some marinating recipes. Prepare your kitchen. Great time it's like Thanksgiving. Great time to clean out your pantry and your fridge. Get things ready because we got other considerations on social distancing. We'll give you tips on widening your viewing area so that if you do have some in your whatever your circle is over for Super Bowl, all considerations given to staying safe. So some additional screens, things of that nature. But it's really about preparation because for me, it's all about breaking bread, right? We'll give you recipes, cocktails, ideas. And listen, something that the women love this stuff. I'm not being sexist here, but they do. If you live in a warm climate, on everything from decorating your sidewalk ideas to how to build an entry point for people coming to it. It's not everybody's going to a Super Bowl party, obviously, this year, but just kind of thematically kind of celebrate the day. It is our last game. For a lot of us, we got the 1-800 suicide prevention number because it's a long time till the draft and it's sitting on the wall there, and we'll make the most of your day. And so the best way to do that is upscale, upper crust, food and beverage. And then on top of that, we're going to give you some funky stats because everybody loves those around Super Bowl time. The total amount of chicken wings eaten in the United States and pizzas, biggest pizza day of the year, funky stuff like that. And then introduce you to some of the great prop bets that are out there. That's a great way to build the full interactive package for a great Super Bowl party.
Nice.
I should say big game party, so.
And where are people going to get this stuff?
I'm going to post it on the listserv, the Next Fan Up discussion list. Nice. And you're going to get them. We'll tell you where the websites are being. We're going to have they're going to be on a bunch of social media influencer sites. But either way, I'm going to make them available, obviously, to the Next Fan Up Nation, and get active on that discussion list. If you need, if anybody who's listening downloads this podcast, if you need any hints, Jeremy Parsons, again, from Cocktails. He is one of the top bartenders in the world. He's got his own show on Netflix and YouTube called Gastro Guru, has donated the cookbook to somebody, and we'll probably feature a couple of those cocktails. He's got a killer Bloody Mary. We'll do a couple of those recipes along with my recipes, a couple of the other celebrity chefs. So we'll make sure you're well equipped and you got all your ingredients, and just eat excess and moderation day. It's excess and moderation Super Bowl Sunday. Can't do it every Sunday, but this next forthcoming Sunday, you got to do it. Do it upright. And so we're going to help you in all assets, or all factors of your Super Bowl Sunday. Yeah.
So be sure to be following us on social media at NFU Podcast, Facebook.com/NFU Podcast, so that you'll be able to follow along and get a lot of these tidbits. You mentioned prop bets, Doc. We have a special prop bets episode coming up. That'll be the next episode that we release. So you want to make sure that you are subscribed or following this podcast wherever you're listening to this podcast, so you don't miss that particular episode. And you're going to want to do that so that you can place your prop bets at thrivefantasy.com or on the Thrive Fantasy app, available wherever you get your apps. And when you do so, you place your initial deposit from $20 up to $50. We're going to double it if you use our promo code NEXTFANUP. So go ahead, sign up to use the Thrive Fantasy app, use our promo code NEXTFANUP, double your deposit, and then you don't have to beg the wife for forgiveness when you lose, $100, because 50 of it was really all you lost. The other 50 was thanks to me. Thrive Fantasy. Go ahead. And by the way, maybe the wife will be very happy when you win extra money because you got an extra $50 courtesy of the old Pod Vader. Quarterbacks, obviously very important in the Super Bowl, but obviously very important for your team. And Adam Schefter this week has started this line of conversation that says that the amount of quarterback movement that we could see this upcoming offseason is going to be unprecedented. According to Schefter, there's really only 10 quarterbacks locked into starting jobs for the 2021 season. And I don't know if he's including the Jaguars in that particular count. He says his over-under of teams changing quarterbacks this offseason is 18, and he's going with the over. So some of the quarterbacks he's listed as quarterbacks whose futures are in question. Deshaun Watson. And I think he's probably the poster child of this, being with the Houston Texans, who did just hire a new coach, not the one anyone was expecting. Yeah. When did they even interview the Ravens wide receiver coach? What is his name that I'm missing?
Tuesday and Wednesday, Dave Cullen.
Dave Cullen. So they interviewed this guy last, and then they just hired him on the spot.
Yeah, Dave Cully. I think, but come on, all you got to do is look at the sort of magnificent air attack that bombarded the league at the Ravens this year, and you'll. Oh, hold on, no, that wasn't the Ravens, was it?
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on in Houston. I don't know. I mean, why would Nick Cassera do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Nick Cassera? You mean Eastern?
There is this news today that Watson has officially requested a trade. Do you think Cully knew this before he accepted the job?
That's a great question. I don't know. So Neil, you're a big Sam Darnold fan, and apparently Watson is the only quarterback on the face of the earth that's a big New York Jets fan. So do you still think that Sam Darnold could come to Houston with a change of scenery and do better than what he's done with the Jets?
Yeah, I think whatever happens for poor old Sam, he's out this year. I think if they don't make a deal for Watson, they're surely going to take Zach Wilson or Fields in the draft. So we'll just say Zach Wilson. I don't want to start dog off again. I think that he's out of there, and fresh start with the Texans. But I've got a second round pick waiting for them, and a jersey waiting for Darnold over in Washington.
Well,
You
Neil,
think a second round is going to be all it takes to get him to go to Washington?
I wouldn't give up more than a second for Darnold at this point. No. Would you?
Neil, let me butt in here for a minute and Pod, get your thoughts on this too, since it's your division. They had sound from new Jets coach Saleh talking about how he's looking forward to working with Sam Darnold this fall and fixing a lot of things, and that's why he brought who is it from Frisco with him to be the OC there in New York, the younger LaFleur or the other LaFleur, however you want to refer to him, and says that they want to run a similar system to what they ran in Frisco, and it should benefit Sam Darnold. So Robert Saleh seems to be locked in on Darnold being his quarterback going forward. So, I mean, do you still think? I mean, and this was just dropped this morning. While I was looking at some of the NFL jaundits. So do you think this changes anything, or you think that if the Jets actually do have a chance, they still move despite what Saleh said?
If LaFleur is the younger LaFleur, isn't he Le Bourgeon Floral?
Dude, you're dropping way too much French on this podcast.
The flower bud.
Really?
The flower bud.
Didn't you guys break from the European Union over there?
Oh,
Yeah.
Scotland love the French. Scotland and France have a great historical connection.
Well, I was going to say you both hate the English, so
That's
that would
right.
make sense.
We both have.
Us reading into what coaches think of their quarterbacks right now is us believing everything we hear before the draft. Nobody is going to show their hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So
A lot of hullabaloo was raised over Aaron Rodgers right after, and we played the sound on the Tuesday podcast, the last sound off edition for the 2020 season. Aaron Rodgers saying, nobody's mystery is, the future isn't set in stone for any of us, including myself. And that set off a lot of people thinking Aaron Rodgers is done with the Green Bay Packers. I don't think that's going to happen. However,
whoa.
if Aaron Rodgers is available, he is my number one. That's my number one draft choice right there.
I mean, there's absolutely no
first.
No, I've got dibs. Dibs.
No.
But James, hold on. There's absolutely no question that Rodgers is available. Absolutely no question. Rodgers is one of these guys who says something, and then when you realize he said something, you go back and he says, "Oh no, I didn't really mean that," but actually he did mean that. He's absolutely available.
Well, he too went on Pat McAfee's podcast to actually answer. What his plans were going forward. So from his own mouth, it wasn't so much a retract. It's just that his demeanor and everything after the game on Sunday, you could understand they just lost the game. They actually had a chance to win until they didn't. At that point in time, I hate when reporters, post-game interviewers always ask these players those questions because they're still raw with emotion after the game, and that's cool for a soundbite, but that's not cool for their plans going forward with their football careers. And to some extent, Rodgers didn't really answer those questions. Yeah, he ducked and dodged a few of them, and he just kind of, ignored others. And I think that was good because oftentimes you do need a day or two to reassess. All right, this is what we did this year. This is what I want to do with my future going forward. And he came on Pat McAfee's show later on Tuesday afternoon, and he said everything that he was feeling at the time. And again, still noting it's still kind of raw. So this is where I am right now today. Will that change in the future? Possibly yes, possibly no. So I think it's a wait and see thing with Aaron Rodgers. Is he available? I highly doubt it.
It's for us to pontificate. James, it's great because it's for us to pontificate. We know it's $14 million against the cap if he's traded after June 1. Is that palatable? You're darn right. Could he move? Sure he could. Is it suicide? Yes. It's for us to pontificate, and we got plenty of frickin' time to do it, man. The possibilities are endless.
It's good fodder. It is. Yes, it's great fodder.
Okay, well let's go to the next guy on Schefter's list, and that's Matthew Stafford, who it appears is available. The Lions are actively shopping Matthew Stafford. So anybody want Matthew Stafford? Anyone?
No.
Anyone?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'll take him in New Orleans. He wants to play behind a good offensive line for the first time in his career. So
my issue with Stafford, Doc, is does he actually make players better around him?
It's a good question.
I think Kenny Galladay would say yes. Maybe it's a 2. Look, is he over average? I mean, we're not. Yeah. I don't want to bring up Rivers because James, we know.
But, I don't want to blow a gasket yet.
Yeah, but
who is the definition of average in the league? Who is that quarterback?
Matt Ryan and Matt Stafford.
I will go find out. I will go find out who was average this year. While you guys continue to discuss.
Is he tough? Yeah, he's tough.
Doc, I'll say this about Stafford: the last couple of years, injuries is my concern, and there has been some decline in his play and his ability. He can still get the ball downfield. That's not the problem. I just worry about him lasting a full 16 games, taking hits. I think he needs a cast around him to do most of the work. He needs to be the missing piece.
Well, that's why I say
to succeed.
That's why I'm saying the Saints would be a good fit. An established top 5 line, established weapons. We need stability at the quarterback. That's if Drew retires, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think that's more of a fit and then another great offensive line you've got going in Indy. I think there's 2 suitable.
Yeah. There are very few players in the league who throw a better looking ball than Stafford. He throws just a beautiful pass.
Number 16 for quarterbacks with over 300 attempts is Gardner Minshew.
Is he,
Spin the porn music. Spin the porn music.
That's by rating. By the way, that's by quarterback rating. Just so
who's 15 and who's 17?
15 is Baker Mayfield. 17, he did not have 300 attempts, but I'll put him in here. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, gosh.
Kyler Murray is right below him.
PFF's got Stafford this year at an 82 grade. I think that's a pretty good quality stat.
Matthew Stafford was 14, just so you know.
Would you take him in New England?
I mean, I'd take anybody in New England because they can't be worse than Cam Newton. That's for sure.
Okay, so if you were to take Stafford, what are you giving up for him?
Well, that's the question. I've got a first-round choice for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if I have a first-round choice for Matthew Stafford.
I don't think he's worth a first-round choice.
He's had 3 playoff games in his career. He hasn't won a playoff game, has he, in his career?
Aaron Rodgers worth at least 2.
Well, I'm not arguing that Aaron Rodgers isn't worth at least 2, but I've had this conversation with the SuperFans in our Slack channel. We as fans, I think, properly rate the value of these guys when it comes, but when the trades happen, we're always like, oh my God, I can't believe they only had to give up 1 first-round draft choice. I feel like we can say Aaron Rodgers should get 2 first-round choices, but they're only going to get 1.
Probably not going to happen. Yeah.
They're only going to get 1.
You guys pretty much sent the Raiders 2 pennies for Randy Moss, so.
But that is the Raiders. And then, of course, conversely, we'll get to him eventually. Jimmy Garoppolo only went for a second-rounder and should have gone for a first. But the next guy on the list, because we'll move on, is Dak Prescott, who's sort of in the same situation he was in last year, except this year he's coming off of an injury. Do we think Dak Prescott makes it out of Dallas? And if so, I'll tell you right now, he's my number 2 draft choice of the available quarterbacks on this list.
Why would he be out of Dallas? So why?
They can't afford the contracts.
Franchise.
Yeah.
They can't franchise him again. They franchised him this past season. They can't afford to franchise him again. They have to find a way to sign him to some long-term deal. Look, at the point that he was injured, he was still leading the league in passing yards for the next 2 to 3 weeks while he was still on injured reserve. So for the first 2 to 3 weeks that he was on injured reserve, he was still the league leader in passing yards. So take from that what you will. This guy, if he had played the full 16 projected out, he would have probably blown away passing records this season, despite Dallas's record.
By passer rating, by the way, he was oh, wait, no, this isn't right. Or is it right? Oh, I guess it is right. How'd this change?
I don't know. What did you push?
I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in passer rating Now he only had
4 games.
He only had 222 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 99.6.
Now the trade value for Prescott will be much lower, of course, because of the salary.
He's a free agent. He's a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Yeah. But not if the franchise tag him again. He's not.
Well,
this compensation. If he they could franchise him or they could transition him.
Yep. Exactly.
We've already mentioned Sam Darnold. Next up is Carson Wentz. I believe Carson Wentz is not leaving Philadelphia.
I thought we were talking quarterbacks.
Not. Yeah. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it. Yeah, Wentz is not going anywhere because, I mean, he got his way, and so the massaging process to let him know he is the guy is underway. In that they hired a new coach. They brought over the former offensive coordinator of the Chargers for the same position here in Philadelphia, who's very quarterback friendly, and you saw what he did with Herbert in his rookie season. So they're hoping a lot of that translates over to Wentz. And basically any and everybody who was on the coaching staff last year is gone. Deuce Staley and Dave Phipp have moved on to Detroit. So entirely new offensive voices and mindset in that coach's room for Carson Wentz. My thing is, if he can't play any worse than last year, but I mean, as Jay will point out, look at his quarterback and disagree, but that was by far the worst season of a Philadelphia quarterback I've seen in my lifetime. So
half season,
and you've seen some crap in your lifetime.
I would also add, you have another quarterback in Jalen Hurts who did at least, maybe not statistically, but at least perceptually played better than Carson Wentz. And you have a locker room that is split. So the question, yes, there's new voices in town, but are those new voices going to crack down on half the locker room that's behind Jalen Hurts? Or are they going to be able to win that locker room to bring them back around to Carson Wentz?
I think whatever type of off-season camps we have this year, that those guys, whatever side the locker room falls on, they need to see flat out who is the better quarterback and who absolutely gives the best.
What if it's Jalen Hurts?
The coaching staff is going to have to go with Hurts. But look, the issue here is still Wentz, though, because you have to remember this guy basically sabotaged the former head coach, got benched and pouted about it, even though most of his benching was his own fault, and he doesn't want to take responsibility for it.
Well, to me,
remember, James.
So my point here is this: your front office has gone out and said Carson Wentz is the guy. Bringing in the coaching staff to make Carson Wentz the guy. You all need to fall in line. If the locker room agrees to that, then that's one thing. But what we have learned is locker rooms don't work like that.
No, they don't.
The locker room can easily revolt, and you have another guy there. You have a quarterback controversy. You can't keep both. So one of them has got to go.
Actually, in this scenario, we can keep both, but just not for long because Hurts is still on a rookie contract. He's not really costing us much of anything.
No. Financially, of course, the front office financially can keep both. It's the locker room. It's the chemistry of your team. If you want to win, both quarterbacks cannot be on your team because you have to tell the team this guy who's better isn't going to play because we're behind Carson Wentz.
Then the way you alleviate that for a split locker room is you trade Hurts. But I don't think the franchise is ready to do that because they want to see what 1 year of Wentz does under this new regime. And if he regresses, then he's the one that's gone. Because, again, Wentz has been given every opportunity, not even given an opportunity. He's been guaranteed his job no matter what every step of his career up until week 12 of this previous season. So he was named the starter day one. Hold on. He was named the starter day one. He gets injured in year 2. They win a Super Bowl. He comes in the offseason, they say no matter what happens, the moment he is healthy, he's the starter. We open up the first 2 weeks with the guy who won the Super Bowl and bench him in week 3 for a healthy Carson Wentz, even though he's playing well.
Yeah, we could really upset.
Understand the organization has done everything possible to pretty much say, Wentz, this is your job no matter what, and he's pissed it away.
I mean, you could just save this last 20 minutes listening to James by just saying, how many pictures of Jalen Hurts are in Howie Roseman's office walls?
None.
2 points, guys. 2 points. James, 2 points. You're going to have a different locker room, a different coaching staff. Okay. $34.6 million cap hit. He's stuck, and you can't have a guy taking up that much of your cap sitting on the sidelines. So I don't know what you're copy between a rock and a hard. You can't get rid of him. Who the hell's going to trade for an at average best quarterback? And the last point I'll make is taking what happened in this last half year that he played, that he started and crapped the bed. Taking that, is as the main point here, as far as basing his whatever his future potential is with a new quarterback coach, new system, new whatever, is like us seeing somebody crap the bed for 3 years in college and have a good Senior Bowl this week. It's the body of work here of his crap is that attributed to what, and can they fix it? I just think they're stuck. They're going to have to work through something because he is untradeable.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go back to Dak. You can't have Dak at the market level that he's going to demand, and Zeke and the high contracts they've got. Look at the cap. What's going to happen potentially? It's impossible for a quarterback and a running back in Dallas to eat half of your cap. They've got too many other blemishes to fix. Same with Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. And the cap number is going down, supposedly.
All right, next quarterback. Who's the next quarterback?
Well, that's the point. Well, speaking of cap problems and being untradeable, Jared Goff is next on this list. I don't see the Rams being done with Jared Goff.
I think you mean two-time Pro Bowler Jared Goff.
Well, there were interesting comments from the coach this past week that there will be a competition for the quarterback with the LA Rams in the season, and that not saying that Goff isn't going to be with the team. They guaranteed he'll be a Ram, but they didn't guarantee he's going to be the starter when the season starts.
Well, his contract is just as big as Carson Wentz's. So if he's not the starter and he's sitting on your sideline, he's eating a lot of cap for
$25 million base. Hello.
Yeah.
Surely that raises. I mean, if you look at those two quarterbacks you just mentioned, Jay, doesn't that also put a little bit of caution on the next upcoming draft? When you look back to that draft, and number 1 and number 2 picks are really, really handicapping their teams.
Well, the only other thing I'll say about both those guys, Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, they have shown the ability that they can get it done at a high level. They have shown the ability that they are better than average quarterbacks at least once in their career. But now they appear to have regressed from that particular point, and now they need to get back there. And they can get back there. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take? What resources do you have to put into to make it so that they can get there? Meaning, what is the team around them that it'll take to get there? And to me, Carson Wentz, there's room for improvement in regards to the resources around him. Jared Goff has had pretty much everything he needs to be successful. So Jared Goff is an interesting one because if you can't, if he's regressed, you can only there's not much more to improve upon the resources around him.
Nobody has been touched by Sean McVay's magnificence more than Jared Goff.
Jay, I'll say this on those two. Like you said, they've each proven they can play at a high level. I don't care if they get back there to that high level. I want them to play well consistently, and that's what's been missing since they played at that high level to take their respective teams to top seeds in the playoffs and eventually Super Bowls.
Smartest thing that's been said today.
Well, they haven't played consistently well since then. The high level that they had for that one magical season, okay, cool. We know that they can play there. I just want good play over a long period of time, and they haven't had that.
Yeah, but come on, James. This is the real world. I want a lot of things I can't have, and I also think sitting here, we know one of Wentz's major issues. I think is a combination of his serious injury history, coupled with the fact that last year, early in the season, he was being absolutely hammered because the offensive line was a mess.
Well, speaking of long injury histories, the real problem with this guy is his injury history. He can't stay on the field, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo's on the field, he wins games. When he's not on the field, that's when 49ers have problems.
All right. Okay. From now on, you're not allowed to speak as part of this conversation because you're.
Jimmy Garoppolo is number 3 on my list. I've got a second-round draft choice for the San Francisco 49ers to bring Jimmy Garoppolo back home.
Second-round draft choice?
Yeah, to come back home? Yep.
You can have him.
Gosh.
Wow.
Thank you. I'll win with him, but I got to keep him healthy. That's his problem.
I can't see anything or anyone spending high on Garoppolo unless they have, quote, the perfect system for him.
He's playing in the perfect system already. That's his problem.
And even when he's healthy, Pod, those first couple of starts he had there in Frisco, he was turning the ball over like, Grandma Halloween.
All he does is win, no matter what.
Okay.
Turning the ball over like what?
Doesn't matter if he giving out candy at Halloween. It matters if his team wins, and his team wins when he plays. That is factual. Go look at his record. Cam Newton's next on the list. He's done. Any team that signs Cam Newton, if he's their starter, you're done. Forget about it. Cam Newton done. Drop the mic. Peyton Manning Hall of Fame. Drop the mic.
And Jay, I've got to say, you're far too old to be quoting DJ Khaled's lyrics on this podcast.
Oh my gosh!
The fact that you knew that it was DJ Khaled makes you too old.
It says your age.
Teddy Bridgewater is next on the list.
Wait.
Teddy Bridgewater is even on this list.
Wait. Before we move on, Cam Newton could be someone's backup.
Yeah, but I don't know if Cam Newton's ready to accept a role as a backup.
I think after this season, he needs to take a long, hard look at what the season was. If he knows he can play better, cool, be someone's backup, get 1 or 2 starts of that. If the starter goes down, prove you can still play at a good level, because he can't play at the MVP level when he took the Panthers to the Super Bowl. I don't think he can get back there anymore.
What's better, his arm or his hats?
His hats.
Move him to Paris. Move him to Paris.
Well, here's my prediction for Cam Newton. 1, he doesn't accept a backup role because he refuses to believe he's only a backup quarterback.
Then he won't be signed.
And 2, he's the starter in the XFL. You've heard it.
Well, that's not going to happen.
It will.
Too much pride.
Teddy Bridgewater is next on the list, which I don't understand. I don't understand why Teddy Bridgewater is on this list.
He's on the list.
But I mean, who is Carolina going to move on to? Unless they're in the game for Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford and some of these other guys that were higher up on the list.
They're picking what, 7th in the draft? Is that correct? The Panthers. So that gives them a shot, gives them some collateral there to work up in the draft if they need to. I think this will be the year where they do make a move for a quarterback. I think it's last year was all about rebuilding the roster, rebuilding the defense. Yeah. This year, I think they'll be hoping they've got pieces in place. Remember, they might be a team who might be quite willing to trade the running back as well there, and might get something for him, and that could help them to get some draft a guy. I think they'll draft a guy as opposed to going for one of these free agents.
Panthers are drafting 8th.
Matt Rule's down at the Senior Bowl getting good looks right now.
Exactly. Yeah. You can see somebody like a Mac Jones or somebody.
He wanted to be there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
No, if I don't get one of these guys, Mac Jones is my guy. Mitchell Trubisky is on the list. I think Trubisky is. So we talk about a backup. He's a backup, but I guarantee there's a team out there that thinks that they can make Mitchell Trubisky a star.
He put the Bears in the very unfortunate position of actually playing quite well, and even in that game against the Saints, there was 1 or 2 plays that should have been made by his receivers that made him look a little better in that game. He probably did just about enough to make them have to sort of really think about what they're doing here. But where are the Bears going if they don't re-sign Trubisky?
Draft.
Where are they picking?
Matthew Stafford.
No way.
No, Lions will never trade him within the division.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. A lot of these quarterbacks that are still in the contract and looking to be traded, they're not being traded within division. So Colts fans give up on Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson's not going to end up with the Colts. Matthew Stafford's the name I hear associated with the Colts the most. What about Jameis Winston? Doc?
Backup.
Is that
backup?
I think it's interesting.
He'll be this.
Well, I think it's
like Sean Payton and company want him to start.
Yeah, why though? They didn't let him back up. They gave that job to Taysom Hill.
Look,
they gave it to Taysom Hill when he had a full week of practice. When Drew Brees went down, they immediately went to Jameis Winston, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good.
That was for a half.
Yeah.
Because of game plan. It's all different. And listen, Teddy's was wearing the crown after an undefeated fill-in last year. He didn't play that great. You look at his effective passer rating and things like he was good. He was good. It was good in a system. Jameis would be good in the system. But Teddy right now, I was amazed of how much people loved him after he became available. I don't see it. Right now, he's a backup quarterback. He's no better than Trubisky.
Ouch. No one's that bad. Well,
these next two guys I'm putting in the I'm going to lump these two guys together. I'm going to put them in the category of done ?
Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, Alex Smith.
Backup ? Backups.
I have nothing but pure hatred and disdain for one of them. So I'll start with Alex Smith. He can still be someone's backup for a couple of years unless Washington feels they don't have any options and gives them the starting job again. He played well despite the team cracking in some areas other than quarterback, but I don't know if anybody wants to invest in him being a starter right now. What is he, like 35, 36?
Half a calf.
I think in my ideal world for Alex Smith, I see him starting the first 4 or 5 games next season until our rookie quarterback gets on the field. That's my aim, but I don't think that will happen, sadly.
And who is going to be your rookie quarterback, as you are not picking until 19th, my friend?
Yeah, it'll be Trey Lance will be my guy. Or Jamie Newman. Hey, Jamie Newman in the second round. That's the guy I like.
Taylor Heineke, future Hall of Famer.
Absolutely not.
He's a free agent.
One game wonder.
The last guy on this list, he seems to find his way on these lists all the time. Ben Roethlisberger. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Really?
So
on the list.
He's on the list.
Ben is in the same situation as Aaron Rodgers. One of those things where they tried to question him right after their loss to Cleveland. He didn't really say much of anything, leaning one way or the other. He's in a holding pattern. I need a couple of weeks away from the game, so you might hear something as far as whether he's coming back or not. Late February to early April, somewhere in that time frame is when he'll make the decision whether he's coming back or not. I think his cap number is $40 million or something like that this year.
Is it?
I know something crazy high. It's a crazy high number. I know that much. But it's also the last year of his deal.
Two guys not on the list. Jacoby Brissett, who I think is another one of those options in that Mitchell Trubisky range.
No, he's better than that.
Ben is a $41 million cap hit.
Cap hit, yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Brissett as a career backup.
And
yeah, agreed.
And Tom Brady is not listed.
Well,
he got one more year.
He has one more year on his contract. That doesn't mean anything.
He'll be the starter next year, regardless, in Tampa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
That's if he wants to play another year.
Brissett is a free agent, right?
Brissett is a free agent.
I think he will look for a starting gig. He probably won't get the opportunity to start outside of Indianapolis. The coaches there know him. They know what he can and can't do. He'll barring one of these other veterans getting the nod over him, and I can't see which ones would, honestly, because I'm not that too enamored with any of the veterans that we talked about who could be available. going to Indianapolis and starting over Brissett, like unless it was something a slam dunk Hall of Fame type person. So unless someone like, I don't know, and look, we said it's not going to happen, but it had to be like Deshaun Watson to get Brissett out of the starting job, or they just go a different direction and draft a new quarterback. But they've already dropped reports saying that they need someone who's with a veteran pedigree. But I don't like any of these other guys over Brissett, because you want to take a 10-year vet who wants to still prove he can play over Brissett, who still has years ahead of him that you can still coach up. And I think we've seen. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think we've seen all we need to see from Brissett. He's a backup. I don't think he's a starter in this league.
I think
he's not. Yeah. Well, it's okay. You're wrong. That's okay. Well, he certainly hasn't proven at this point, either he's play on the field or else his coaches at Indianapolis, that they want him to be the starter. So let's be clear about that. Where he goes, I don't know. I think you're right, James. I think he's probably well suited there in Indianapolis. It seems to suit him. But I don't know. Back to New England, Jay.
He's lower on my list, but I would take him back.
Yeah.
I have other guys that I would take over him.
Over Cam Newton?
Yes, he would take him over Newton.
Yeah. Newton is dead last on my list.
Jay would probably take himself over Cam Newton.
And quite honestly, yes, I would take myself over Cam Newton.
I'd like to see you in that. I'd like to see you in that hat.
Yeah, I can make all the throws, within 5 yards.
Yeah, but can you carry off the dress sense?
That no.
Let me throw one more in there to flip it a bit. Jameis.
In New England?
Jameis.
No, anywhere.
Jameis will be the New England. It will be the New Orleans starter next year, no question.
Don't. No, not yet. No. Listen. No. We don't know jack all about the Saints right now. We don't know. You heard Mickey say the other day, it's going to be wait and see. Listen, you saw the injuries that Drew had at the end of the year, yada, yada, yada. But the fact is that Jameis, can they get a cheap deal done with him? Yeah, possibly. Does he know the system? And was he well tutored under a great Sean Payton?
But more importantly,
maybe.
More importantly, and probably the top thing on the list there, it just dovetails beautifully with your career in the chefing there, eating W's, all that sort of thing. You'll be having, you imagine, you'll have a book out this time next year, the Jameis Winston eating W's wings and the eating W's sauce and eating W's guacamole. Oh, yeah, I can see it.
All right. He's got a strong case, but the fact is that we don't know. Is he maybe a 35 touchdown, 15 guy after a year with Drew and Sean? Maybe. We don't know.
Sure.
More has he grown up? Has he grown up?
Mm-hmm.
He's 18 months off an Uber driver case and rape allegations. He's not getting a clean pass, and that's going to that'll come to roost eventually. But I don't know. It ain't Taysom Hill in New Orleans. So Jameis is out there and a viable starter for somebody that wants to tutor him.
Possession is 9/10 of the law. That's what I was taught here.
Well, he had a 1 year in New Orleans. That's it. So he's a UFA.
There.
Yep.
He's in the room.
One quick note before we move to our final topic.
Oh, of course. Well, hold on. I've also remembered, Jay, you could eat another recipe for you there with Jameson. You could have the crab leg sort of series of recipes.
Yep. Of course. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thanks for interrupting me on that one. That was an old.
I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help Doc in his new book.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of stuff there.
Adam Schefter also tweeted out, it's been a heavy Adam Schefter show here. Seattle hiring the Rams passing game coordinator Shane Waldron for its offensive coordinator job. Waldron taking over for Brian Schottenheimer. The Rams losing Shane Waldron, Brad Holmes, Ray Agnew, Joe Barry, Aubrey Pleasant, and Brandon Staley. So when we go back to those resources around Jared Goff, the coaching staff is getting to be brand new as well. Besides
second coming of Christ coach in the team, he'll rebound, right?
I don't know.
Get a cup of coffee with him, you'll get a job to replace. So
I'm just saying it's tough. I've seen what happens when a coaching staff gets graded. It doesn't.
Yes, I have
work
too.
out.
Yeah. Yes, you have. Yeah.
But they've still got McVay. Come on. And who? As soon as you sup from the teat of McVay, then you are destined for greatness.
I will tell you, listening to Brandon Staley's press conference, and again, you can hear a little bit of it on the Tuesday podcast that we do, the NFL Sound Off podcast. He sounds a lot like Sean McVay.
Yep, he does. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Well, a great backstory for that guy, hasn't he? Didn't he beat serious illness as a young man, and he's got to where he is? It's a fantastic story. But I mean, I can't get over the Dan Campbell press conference. That's the one for me.
Oh, you want to bite some kneecaps off? I can throw a little kneecap just here for you, Neil.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
This is. I mean, I thought that was just. I mean, that's a Saints thing, isn't it?
Yeah. What?
Biting kneecaps, injuring people. He's that's fantastic. Let's have some kneecaps. Great. Oh yes, I like that.
I heard someone say that was the most embarrassing head coach introduction in the history of the NFL.
Could be.
I don't think that's embarrassing. Listen, I said it on the podcast. You can have a coach that's a character, but that type of character can wear thin if you're not winning real quick.
Yep.
Yeah, that's iron.
Yeah. I mean, that was the sort of thing you'd expect to have heard in the 80s, when they go in there and kill some guys and chop their legs off and all the rest of it. But you do listen to it in 2021 and think, really? Where did they wheel this guy out from? Have they just defrosted him from the 1970s?
The other thing I heard was, why does Detroit still want to be associated with getting knocked down? Like, why are we getting knocked down? Why aren't we knocking the other dude down and keeping them down? Like, we don't need to get knocked down just to get back up. We can do the knocking down. How about that? Then we never have to bite kneecaps. We have to avoid our kneecaps getting bitten.
Of all the parts of somebody I'd like to bite, kneecaps not high on that.
Yeah, I know. It's like I don't get the bite the kneecap thing. It's like,
there's not a lot of meat on that portion of the
James, which part of a human body do you like to nibble on?
So, Jay, you were saying one more thing before we get to our final topic?
No, we are at our final topic, and that is the 2021 Hall of Fame finalists. They will be announced, obviously, during the NFL honors, but we'll obviously find out about who's getting in before then, because that's what always happens. All right, so our 2021 Hall of Fame finalists, the SuperFans went through and did our power rankings, determine who out of the 15 finalists will make it in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Or a better way to put it is, who would we put into the Hall of Fame? Now, the 15 finalists, just to go over that real quickly: Clay Matthews Jr., linebacker; Rondé Barber, cornerback; John Lynch, safety; Leroy Butler, safety; Torrey Holt, receiver; Richard Seymour, defensive lineman; Reggie Wayne, wide receiver; Sam Mills, linebacker; Zach Thomas, linebacker; Alan Faneca, guard; Jared Allen, defensive end; Charles Woodson, cornerback, safety; Calvin Johnson, receiver; Peyton Manning, quarterback; and Tony Pizzelli, tackle. I will tell you, we have 4 candidates here by the SuperFans who are all who we believe should be locks for the Hall of Fame. Begins with Peyton Manning, who was unanimous. Everyone voted for Peyton Manning. There's really not much more to say here other than the fact that everyone's been saying that. Right? Everyone's like, Peyton Manning's a lock. All right, we can move on. Nothing to see here. I feel like Peyton Manning's getting a little short-shrifted on his Hall of Fame moment here. Or are we just waiting to give Peyton Manning that Hall of Fame moment?
Neither. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
As is. Just like the the Pro Football Hall of Fame let their Zoom call leak about this, and the reporter actually said, my speech for Peyton Manning into the Hall of Fame, mic drop if I had one, but I'm not slamming my computer. In the discussion.
Yep.
Next topic.
Move
Peyton
on.
Manning.
Yep.
All right. Well, there you go. I guess we're not going to give Peyton Manning any due either, but it's pretty
There's
clear.
Nothing to say, really.
Peyton Manning in the Hall of Fame. There was a tie for second with the number of votes, total number of votes here. I will mention the cornerback safety first, that being Charles Woodson. He played from 1998 to 2005 for, if this stupid thing would work for me, which it's not.
Packers and Raiders. He went back and forth, started with the Oakland Raiders, left via free agency to go to the Green Bay Packers and returned for his final, 2 to 3 seasons with the Raiders and finished out there.
98 to 2005 with the Raiders, 2006 to 2012 with the Packers, and then 2013 to 2015 back with the Raiders.
15, 3 years.
So Charles Woodson, we believe, is a lock here for the Hall of Fame. Does anybody have anything they want to share about Charles Woodson? Very well.
Probably one of the smartest corners as far as coverage, knowing where the ball is going to be, reading things as far as jumping from his man to the underneath receiver or the middle receiver, and just getting to the ball. Probably one of the corners more adept at forcing the ball out via fumble, and always seems to be around the ball when it's on the ground. So definitely more. I'm not going to say a complete ball hawk, but probably more of an all-around safety as far as both coverage and his ability to tackle and supporting the run as well. So definitely one of my favorite players throughout the years. And then his move to safety, just, you see these guys like before him, Aeneas Williams comes to mind. These guys who are just so smart at their corner position that they can still play, but probably don't have the speed at corner. So you put them at safety and there's no real fall off because they can take all the knowledge of the game that they have and just imbue it into that new position for them, but they're just playing center field and watching everything unfold in front of them instead of just this one guy or this half of the field.
I will mention, we talk about let's move this cornerback who's lost some speed, move him to safety. It takes a certain mindset. I'll go back to what Rod Woodson said about that, because Rod Woodson, another Hall of Famer who moved from cornerback to safety, mentioned that it's a different mindset playing safety. You have to have the right mindset for that. We've mentioned a couple of times in this podcast that Richard Sherman might be one of those candidates for that type of move where maybe cornerback is not the best position suited for his skill set at this particular point in his career and should consider moving to safety. I don't know if he's ready for that. I know he wants to play for Rob Saleh. He would be an excellent addition for the New York Jets, who need some talent. We'll see. Just wanted to bring that up here in terms of making it relevant to this day and age. Mr. Neal, you had mentioned that you're not going to put any wide receiver into the Hall of Fame from this class. However, we as the SuperFans have made Calvin Johnson a Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that he is a Hall of Fame player for sure. But I believe this is his first time up in the ballot. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I believe must be if he retired in 2015. Yeah, so I wouldn't have put him in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he, although he was very good, very very good, I don't have him in the Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens bracket, and I don't think even Terrell Owens didn't get in the first time either, did he? So no, not for me. If I was taking a wide receiver from this group, I'd probably be looking more to Wayne or Holt.
Holt, yeah.
One of the rules that I like to use when I'm trying to decide is a player a Hall of Famer or not, and it's just a portion of what I use to decide on my vote and how I vote, is was this player at one point during his playing days considered the best at his position while he was playing? And I think in regards to Calvin Johnson and the two others that we have mentioned, that is the case, 100%. And so I do think Calvin Johnson is a Hall of Famer specifically for that reason.
Yeah, definitely a Hall of Famer. No question about it.
I just say when I think of short careers, we were talking about this off air, but I think with short careers, look, there's guys like Calvin Johnson that deserve to be in. We all know that, but it doesn't have to be first ballot. I think there are other people on this list more worthy. And now we know you're going to get in, park it. We know you're going to get in. Just longevity's got to count for something when you do it at a consistent high level. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the last player that received a majority of the superfan votes here is the offensive lineman Alan Faneca, the guard from 1998 to 2007 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, then the Jets 2008 to 2009, and finished with the Cardinals in 2010. Alan Faneca is the last of our majority getting votes for the Hall of Fame here.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And you know, we always mention the offensive lineman gets shorted because there's no stat to say to quantify their impact on the field or anything like that. It's pretty much, you know, Pro Bowl nods, All Pro nods, Super Bowl winning teams that they were on. Did their team constantly win? How they help, you know, in the production of said quarterback or running back they blocked for, that type of thing. And then, you know, something we also mentioned before coming on air, all decade team. You know, counts for something. Faneca, look, guard. I think guard is more essential now than it was in Faneca's day. From a passing standpoint, guard was more so just, you know, that middle part of the offensive line where that's where we're going to run the ball. So do you open up lanes to run the ball, because there weren't many blitzes coming from there. Most of the blitzes back in his day came from the edge. Very few up the middle unless you were like going right into the center. So again, no quantifiable stat, but I still feel like his longevity and who he played with and who he helped block for does help in some regards. He was a mainstay. He was constantly near the top of his position year in and year out. I don't see why not.
I could just say that from the the first and second team all decade of the 2000s, there are four, obviously two first team guards and two second team guards. The two first team guards are Faneca and Hutchinson. The two second team guards are Larry Allen and Will Shields. Now, those other three guys, they're all in the Hall of Fame already.
Hall of Fame.
So Faneca needs to be in there pretty quick. I would just say, just to throw in, you talk about if you're in the all-decade team, you should really be in the Hall of Fame. I shall wait with interest to see Darren Sharper get his Hall of Fame call.
Oh, God,
Yeah,
no.
geez.
Stop, Neil.
We now have so those were the four candidates that got the majority of the superfan votes. This is top 5 vote or better by the superfans. Then I have a group of players who I will put in the others receiving votes category. They did not receive a majority of the superfan votes. There are 3 players that received no votes from the superfans. Those 3 players are Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, Leroy Butler.
Oh,
those 3 did not receive.
Get in your history, boys. Look at your history, boys. God.
so
Showing
I
your
don't
age.
have. So okay, so here's the thing with Wayne and Holt. Wayne and Holt, I didn't put high on my list because I feel like Calvin Johnson is a slam dunk. Again, like Pod said earlier, were you at any point in your career the best at your position? And I would say, Calvin Johnson played 7 years. For any given 5 years of his career, I can easily say he was the best wide receiver in the league, despite playing for the Detroit Lions. And that was, both prior to and after Stafford's arrival. For Holt and Wayne, I have a little bit of a knock on them because of who they played with. Holt was opposite Isaac Bruce for a number of years. Wayne basically played in the shadow of Marvin Harrison for the majority of his career. So while after those guys had, moved on and retired, they did have success, but I can't really say they were dominant or the best when they were the guy for their squad. Like Reggie Wayne, he was the guy for his team, but I still wouldn't consider him the best at his position as far as the entire league after Marvin Harrison, retired. And the same thing for Torrey Holt. Holt was an excellent and phenomenal wide receiver, but I still wouldn't consider him the best for any year after Isaac Bruce retired. You know,
And also-
I can't flat out say that for the
Yeah, that's fair. And going against Reggie Wayne, of course, was his brother Little, whose music's terrible.
Oh, gosh.
Dad joke Thursday. Neil, I love it. You've been a wonderful addition today.
Todd, who was the third guy who got no votes besides the receiver?
Leroy Butler.
That's
Leroy
Doc.
Leroy
Give us some stuff on this, Doc.
Go ahead,
Look,
Doc. I'll let you go ahead.
all decade. I listen. I don't know if some people are showing their age. He was.
Mhm.
He's
Yes,
a
that's it,
20-20 guy. I mean, when you get 20 sacks and 20 interceptions in a career, hello, you're versatile. We know that, but he's all decade. You make an all decade team, drop you in the hall, drop it. That's it. That's all you need to know. And if you got to go back to the 90s and refresh yourself from video, the guy was top of his game at the safety position, and he played. He always knew where Leroy Butler was. Right, he always did. He was front and center as far as a defensive star. So he's an all-decade. I'll just leave it at that.
Here's my devil's advocate against why he probably didn't receive votes, and I said this off air as well. The previous 3 years, we had a run at safety with Dawkins, Reed, Palomalu.
Yep.
We
got safety fatigue. We got safety fatigue.
Yeah, it's probably safe, which is weird because we've seen this. We've seen a run on several positions over a span of, say, 3 to 5 years, get into the Hall of Fame. And then there's another guy who's like, yeah, well, this guy is definitely a Hall of Famer. And then he doesn't get in because there's fatigue at that position because we had all these years that position going in. And it's like, well, some of these other guys deserve a chance. Yeah. And for me, I will say, yes, that probably played a part. Now, considering the other safety who's a finalist on the list, John Lynch,
who received
definitely I take Leroy. Yeah, which I don't understand. But, I mean, if I was going to vote between the two of them, if one of those safeties had to go in, definitely Leroy Butler over John Lynch. I don't think John Lynch is a Hall of Famer, period.
Yeah,
I haven't felt he was a Hall of Famer.
Votes because, and it's not right, it's not fair, but John Lynch is current in people's minds as general manager of the 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers.
Oh, John Lynch, he was a player? Oh, he's on the Hall of Fame ballot? Oh, I should put John Lynch in the Hall of Fame.
It's one of the things. It's one of the things that goes against players who just miss out for a few years. Then all of a sudden, if they're not on the media, they're out of people's minds, and all the new fresh faces get picked. That's why you got guys there like Richard Seymour and Boselli and Butler. Your guy there, Butler. People start to forget just how absolutely fantastic they were as players. Yeah. And that's harsh. And of course, it's just the way things go, which is unfortunate. But hopefully Butler will get in the next year or two because he was a extraordinarily good player. If you look at the first and second team, all decade teams, he was there. He's surrounded in the safety position by guys like Steve Atwater and Ronnie Lott, and he's in there with them. Yeah. And when you're in that company, then
you should be in the Hall of Fame.
You can get that.
But I would ask. And I don't remember enough about Leroy Butler, even though I'm old enough that I should. Would we say he's in the same group as Palomalu, Reed, and Dawkins?
I would say probably not quite in the same group as Reed.
If they're A plus, then he's an A. If they're A plus and the best, he's an A.
Yeah, I'd take over.
And so that's sort of, and I know it's not fair. It may not be fair. But I'm going to say this in regards to these wide receivers and quarterbacks too. When the A plus guys are in, should the A guys still get in? Because to me, it's like, well, no, you got to be A plus now.
No, I don't think that's right.
Like, there's going to be a list of quarterbacks beyond Peyton Manning and Tom Brady that are going to get into the Hall of Fame. But honestly, I don't think they should. They're not better than Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Like, until you're better than those two guys, you're not getting in.
I think you find that the A-plus guys are the guys who transcend the game, who change the game, who make the game different. You think of guys like Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, guys who become bigger than the game to a certain extent, and of course change the position they play at. You think of the great tight ends of recent years who have transformed that position, and things like that.
Neil, that is a great kind of segue into my thought, because number one, it is not the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's the NFL Hall of Fame. Drop the mic.
Other way around.
Let's put it there. Now, thirdly.
No, other way around. It's not the NFL. It is the Pro Football.
Well, it's the NFL Hall of Fame. Come on.
It's the NFL. Or Doug Flutie.
There's CFL players in there.
Anyways, yeah, Warren Moon. What about this, guys? I don't know if you've ever gone through this pod, but I'm sorry that this is very skewed, the Hall voting every year. How come we can't get more special team specialists into the Hall of Fame?
That's right.
Steve
When it's
Tasker.
such a vital, nobody personified that more than Steve Tasker.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're going to tell me that football, like I forget which Major League Baseball, there's very few third basemen in there. Why? Hey, come on. Like, I don't understand why we just block out that part of the game.
Well, it's a bit like in the NFL.
There's only one kicker and one punter in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and how many right tackles are in the Hall of Fame?
And there are better kickers than Ray Guy, too. Jesus. Yeah. That was a ceremonial inductee. You know, have you ever gone through this, guys, in your podcast? Have you ever talked about this? The great special teamers that have changed the game?
Oh, yeah. I think it's right. There's something in there about the position that's played, because how many great fullbacks are in, how many great right tackles are in, how many it's that sort of thing. Punters, kickers, return guys.
I was down at the Super Bowl in Indianapolis, and I was talking to Devin Hester at a poker event. I was interviewing, and I said, do you think I can't remember what my exact question was. Do you think that you'll ever be recognized as one of the greatest special teamers ever? He changed the Super Bowl. He changed the game. Mm-hmm. We got to start paying attention to special teamers. It's a whole game. It's the ultimate team game. So why are we not celebrating and enshrining the whole game?
See, I'm just looking here. Sorry, just looking here at the 2010's All-Decade team. I'm looking at the tackle position. There's 4 tackles in that All-Decade team, 2 firsts, 2 seconds. They're all left tackles. That's not right.
Yeah. And Doc, to your point about specialists, I think the problem is kickers and punters notwithstanding. I would say the problem with special teamers like Steve Tasker, and he's the outlier in this, which is why his name always comes up.
Yep.
Longevity. Special teamers like Steve Tasker, who are career special team guys, they don't stay in the league that long.
That's not true.
Slater.
Yeah, it's the other way around. Guys like that do stay in the league for a long time.
Yeah, but their production as far as so let me rephrase that then.
Their star shines.
Their star shines very briefly.
Yeah.
Look at your guy in New England, Matthew Slater.
Yep. He's been around for 9 years.
He's been around for a while, but he was really he only burned bright for maybe 2 or 3 seasons of those 9 years. Steve Tasker,
he's burned bright ever since. He's been a career special teamer, and he's always
been a Pro Bowler every year. How many times has he been a Pro Bowler special teams? Please look that up. I could, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
But that's a bad measure.
Yeah, we don't want to measure.
I would, guys. I'd rather go to Pro Football Focus or somebody who does analytics and measurements in this day and age than talk about even the Pro Bowl. As a measurement stick.
All Pro
is a better measurement, and even that's
All Pro. But still, that's
so. You've got Matthew Slater. He has been 3-time Super Bowl champion, 5 times first team All Pro, 9 times Pro Bowler.
By that measure alone, he should go into the Hall of Fame as a special teamer.
Yep, definitely. Yeah. 5
but
five
he won't.
first team All Pros. It's good.
No, I won't.
5 first team All Pro. I mean, find a special teamer who has more than 5 first team All Pros. I think you'll be hard pressed to find somebody.
Yeah.
It's a bit like my father always used to say to me, "Why are you interested in the decathlon? Because it means you can't do any of the other things really well."
Just to close out the conversation here, John Lynch has been a finalist 8 times. He's been the one that's been in this position the longest. Alan Faneca has been 6 times, Tony Baselli 5 times. The guy who's been waiting the longest is Clay Matthews Jr.,
long overdue,
who only received 1 vote.
He wasn't even the best player in his family, never mind the league.
He's been waiting 20 years. Sam Mills, 19 years. Leroy Butler and Tony Baselli, 15 years. John Lynch, 9 years. So John Lynch has been on the ballot for 9 and a finalist 8 of the 9 years. John Lynch is probably going to get into the Hall of Fame here.
He will after everyone who's better than him has gone in. So again, just like the previous 3 years where we had Dawkins, Reed, and Palomalu go ahead of him.
Based on these numbers, he's been a finalist 8 out of the 9 years he's been eligible. He is going to be a Hall of Famer. That
I understand that.
You don't get to bring up John Lynch's name 8 years in a row, and the writers go, yeah, you know what?
But Pod, guess what? If Leroy Butler's there next year with John Lynch, I guarantee you Butler goes in ahead of Lynch.
Well, I'm telling you, John Lynch is going to get in this year. And I'm not saying that he deserves it. I'm saying that John Lynch is going to get in this year and Leroy Butler is not.
What about you're missing one player, Jay, that is a great contradiction for you. Of course, something that wrangles in your mind every year.
We had a very long conversation last year at this time about Richard Seymour,
the great Richard Seymour.
And I'm on record as saying that Richard Seymour is not a Hall of Famer. I have noted that there are plenty of players that I have discussed with and have worked with that all disagree with me and say that Richard Seymour is 100,000% a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely is.
And I admittedly finally broke down and put Richard Seymour in my top 5 this year.
And if you're going by your previous thing, Richard Seymour is, of course, first team all decades for the all decade team of the 2000s.
No, that's also
great
cap.
That's because all you stats don't see the numbers. So you think, oh no, he can be because he didn't have 400 sacks and passed for 17,000 yards and 4,000 touchdowns. I mean, the guy was. I'd want him on my team.
Yeah,
great player.
He was on my team, and he won me 3 Super Bowl rings.
If I can quote some guy called Belichick, I don't know who he is. Anyway, he wrote that Seymour was one of the best defensive linemen he'd ever coached. Richard had a rare combination of size, speed, strength, and athleticism. Although primarily a defensive end in our 3-4 defense, Richard also played nose tackle. So if you're getting Belichick, a great defensive coach, saying he's the guy, then yeah.
Yeah, the problem is Bill Belichick says the exact same thing about the guy he faces in Week 13. So I'm just saying
that's not fair.
It's the same line that Bill Belichick uses in every press conference about everything.
I'm going to pivot off the Hall just for a second. Are any of you guys going to watch the Senior Bowl?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. The Senior Bowl, especially now. We brought this up last week. Now that there's no combine, I mean, the Senior Bowl becomes all that much more important.
Oh, yeah.
In regards to the draft.
The Senior Bowl. And we still haven't found out. Yeah. So are there any other All-Star games? Like, I don't think the East-West Shrine game is being
No. Combine is question.
They made a mistake
there's no
this
combine.
year.
There's no combine.
Yeah, they made a mistake this year. That Senior Bowl should have been expanded to include any juniors or other people who are eligible to go to be drafted this year, who maybe were given a first to fourth round grade by the committee.
And Neil, let me ask you this real quick: did any underclassmen who were declaring for the draft skip their team's bowl games?
Yes, certainly a few did. I can't give you the names. I do remember reading one or two who pulled out of bowl games. Yeah.
Okay, because I remember last year that was a really big thing. Like, had like 20 or so top underclassmen who were skipping their team's respective bowl games, and it was a big deal because there was concern as we wouldn't get good quality bowl games on those respective days.
I think I've said on here many times my particular views about colleges making billions of dollars on the back of
we all have
on the back of children.
We're in agreement. Yeah,
James, I'm really interested in seeing a lot of the COVID holdouts. Right,
Yes.
I think that this is their one time. Listen, the senior
Yeah,
days.
there's several in this game on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm really interested in guys like Nico Collins from Michigan. I missed him this year, but there's a few in there, and this is their one chance, right?
Do you know what's really interesting, Doc? Is you've got guys like I'll take a really high profile example, Jamar Chase from LSU, who didn't play this year, obviously, and a lot of wide receiver rankings have him like down for a fourth, fifth in these rankings because
he might get picked up ahead of Devontae Smith,
and he is the best wide receiver in this draft, based on what we've seen of.
Well, and I think his buddy Jefferson, that's going to get potentially NFL Rookie of the Year, I think has a lot.
Yeah,
to do with
that. Coming into this draft, I think Chase is the best of the players, and yet because he didn't play, he's a bit off the grid, and it's like, oh well, it's Devonta Smith or it's Waddle or it's Bateman or whoever it is. So there'll be a lot of players who fall this year.
Oh, that's fantastic. I don't think he's related, but hey, any guy named Bledsoe, you immediately get a fan in me. Who are the guys that we should be watching in this, Neil? Anybody in particular that you've got your eyes on?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I think
Newman's here.
Yeah, I do think that a lot of eyes will be on Mac Jones, the Alabama quarterback, to see how he looks away from that Alabama system. I think that's going to be a guy I will certainly be watching very closely indeed. I don't know about you, Doc.
I think the amount of QBs that this carousel is going to go on before the draft is going to be the most captivating discussion we've had in a decade. But I think where everybody fits, where do you sit on Ian Book? Beginning of the year, I say definitive NFL starter. Now, I don't know. He cut his hair. He's got a curly perm now. I'm not so much. But all these stocks with all this revelry and crap, people talking up Felipe Franks. Come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no,
look at the body of work. Listen, can Sam Ehlinger, can they fall into the second and third? Yeah, potentially. But I love watching this game because it's pure football coached by NFL coaches. 10 years ago, it was 3 running plays, 3 quarterback sneaks. They didn't put now. They try and put in full offenses, and I love to see these guys go mono. They've got the SEC linemen all together. It's gonna be a good. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens at the end of the first round with this draft, especially with quarterbacks. How many QBs will be talked up so much that they get moved up, and what do we buy the farm? That's what it's going to be about.
I can give you one more name, Jay, and my penchant for tight ends, and I would certainly be keeping an eye on Hunter Long, who from Boston College, who is a sort of tight end who can pass catch and block. He can do both those things, and obviously all the media spotlight is on Kyle Pitts at the moment from Florida, but I think Hunter Long is a guy who, like Doc was just talking about, in the sort of second round kind of guy. Keep an eye on him in this Senior Bowl.
Neil, one question, because he's been getting a lot of talk this week, and you guys already mentioned him, Jamie Newman. Thoughts?
I like Newman. I know he didn't play. I liked him before. He transferred to Georgia, didn't he? And he didn't play for Georgia. I liked it. Yeah, from Wake Forest to Georgia or the other way around. I would like to have seen him the other way around. I would have liked to have seen him play because I think he has a lot of the things you want from an NFL quarterback. He just hasn't played enough, James.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Mac Jones. I think his stock has gone up, and I think that he'd be pontificating. I think he'd be a great replacement for Roethlisberger.
I wonder,
statuesque.
It's one of those. Did sign Dwayne Haskins.
That's right. The future's
Ohio State.
Yeah, and for Mac Jones, I could say Alabama.
That's true, but you look at his numbers. I mean, and he made great decisions in big times. He played against a really good Ohio State. Look, he torched them. I know, even without his number one wideout, with the busted fingers. Listen, there's cases on all fronts from every different angle for everybody, but this is the show me don't tell me phase, because they're not going to have the normal path to the draft.
Any defenders, Neil, that stand out?
Well, I think there are, Jay, but I'm not sure I can really pronounce any of them.
I see there's another Melon Fonwu.
There's Obi's brother, I think, is coming into this draft. Is he a corner or safety? He's a defensive back.
A defensive back.
Yeah. So,
right. Okay.
I mean,
The Senior Bowl is on Saturday, so I mean, it does give us some football to watch this weekend. Because the Pro Bowl, like any other, is apparently a Madden tournament. Which
one thing you tend to notice quite a bit in the Senior Bowl is keep an eye on the offensive linemen. I think that's always one of my things. One of my personal things. If I was a drafting players, I quite like senior players on the offensive line, because you tend to find they've played 50 or 60 games in their career, and generally, if you can get a guy, played 50 or 60 games off, in especially a guard or center, then generally they can go on and play in the pros if they're in the Senior Bowl. So have a look at the offensive linemen if you're looking for some linemen, Jay.
Ask the Tampa Bay Bucks what these small schools put out. I mean, this is a great time for you see the Spencer Browns and that. They're going to go to this game, and you get to watch on the NFL Network, watch them match up. Right, they're playing third-tier football until they get to the Senior Bowl. Now they're playing against 3 or 4 all-conference SEC guys. Now you get the real deal.
I think we saw that with Ali Marpet a few years ago.
That's a perfect example.
And he's gone on to have he's an absolutely stellar offensive guard now. And he can make the name. You're right, that's really good. But I always like to watch the offensive linemen here, Jay. That's one of my personal.
I have to reach out to Scott Wright and get him on here for some off-season podcasting on some of these up-and-coming draft prospects for sure. All right.
Just interestingly,
gentlemen, my goodness, we've done it again.
Boys, if you get to Sunday, especially you, Pod, if you get to Sunday and you guys need to talk, I'll be in the same boat. 1-800-suicide prevention numbers are on the desk.
Todd and I will be good on Sunday. We'll be watching the Royal Rumble.
Oh God! Watch the after podcast with that. That's like doing a soap opera, and then let's have a podcast on the Bachelor. Nah, come on.
Yeah, come on, James. Your street cred has just plummeted.
Hey!
There's a new competitor every
for almost 35 years. So I mean, I try to walk away from it in college, and then the NWO popped up. So,
yeah, James, are you sitting down, James?
Oh yeah.
James, are you sitting down?
Of course.
All right. Well, let me just break it to you gently. Then it's not real, James. It's fake.
Yeah, we know. It's drama. It's
when the world opens back up, Neil.
Fictionalized reality.
I want to take a steel chair to your back and show you how fake wrestling is.
After watching Buffalo and replay of the parking lot, because we've had no tailgating in Buffalo this year, I've seen enough wrestling. So,
Doc, I think you're with me, aren't you? You're just wondering if it's for Jay and James there. Is it just because it's big, oiled up men in very skinny, tight pants?
Anyways, boys, have a good week off. Enjoy the vacation. Enjoy your wrestling.
I always thought, the country singer Willie Nelson. I always thought that was an illegal wrestling move.
As I mentioned, the next podcast,
Jay, wrap this up.
Will be our props bet special that will feature Houston James and Detroit Lions Josh. They'll be presenting all of your favorite prop bets, giving you lots of tips and hints wherever you decide to place your prop bets. ThriveFantasy.com. You can use the promo code NextFanUp to get a little extra bonus money. That's what I'm saying. So you're going to want to check out that particular episode. That will come out here probably before Tuesday, but Tuesday at the latest. So it fits as sort of our Tuesday podcast, Neil. Just pay attention to your listening app of choice and make sure you're subscribed or following to the show. Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday.
Night.
Yep. And then we'll be back again next Thursday with the blowout the budget. Guys, hold your. I'm going to multiply the budget by 100,000 times. All right, that's how big this is going to be for Thursday. It will be. We will have all the matchups. I will have 3 to 4 pages worth of inane stats that Neil will absolutely love. He'll love every single one of them. And it'll be a wonderful time. We'll be here to talk about the Super Bowl 55. And then we will have our immediate recap of the Super Bowl available for you. We will record that right after the clock hits quadruple zeros. We will have Nick on to sort of give us his reaction, whether it's more smugness or it's in tears. But those tears will probably be smug too.
Well, understand, last year it wasn't smugness. It was me trying to keep him sober.
Hey, Pod, I got an idea before we go. How about everybody email Pod and give us your Super Bowl menu, and maybe we pick the most exotic or something like. We'll send you that delicious cookbook called Invite.
That sounds like a good idea.
Cocktails, canapes, and company from Jeremy Parsons. You can get him on YouTube, Gastro Guru, and you decide.
That sounds like a fantastic idea. So send us those Super Bowl recipes so that you can get that book that we mentioned earlier in the podcast. Nextfanup@gmail.com is the email. And then after the Super Bowl, we won't be back the Thursday after the Super Bowl. We'll take that week off, but we'll be back the following Thursday, every Thursday, through until the season begins again. We'll be back with off-season podcasts, and who knows what other surprises. That's why you got to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts, because you never know when an episode will pop up besides Thursdays. So for Doc, for Neil, for James, I'm Pod Vader. Here's Kofi Annan. There you have it.
Dear friends and colleagues, saying goodbye is never easy. I believe we can all feel proud of what we have done together. And through it all, you have maintained your professionalism and commitment and remained true to the spirit of the Charter. That principle.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.